We've had actually a little rain here, but today was a beautiful day. It's just great to be here. I miss California. I don't get here as much as I would like to. And I wanted to record this podcast. Today's show is about vision, perception, inflammation, and how to use some essential oils to help improve our vision, perception, and just open up our health. I'm in the middle of teaching an aromatherapy certification course. We're actually almost done. We're in week 5, and it's been just a fantastic course. In the background, there's a couple of coyotes which are singing, so you might hear them. There they are. I'd like to start with a story that is it's about a group of pharmaceutical researchers who went down to the Amazon and they met with some of the shamanic healers there and medicines that could actually help people. So they spent about 2 weeks together down there, and the shamans were smiling and laughing, and they had the transaction where they got the check, did the money, gave the pharmaceutical scientists the formulations that they've been using for hundreds of years. So the pharmacists go back to the laboratory and they start making the pharmaceutical drugs that they're going to market. And they spend millions of dollars in the marketing. And the shamans are down in the Amazon and they're just laughing their asses off because what the pharmaceutical industry failed to see was there was no relationship to the plants. There was no relationship to nature, except how can we make a profit? And without that relationship, and then to make things that are synthetically made, there's not going to be any results. And the shamans knew this at the very beginning, and it was a real coup for them. Which brings me to the difference between plant medicine and pharmaceutical synthetic drugs. The other day, while we were here in Joshua Tree, pharmaceutical drugs, they try to use natural methods, and they don't really trust doctors. And it's kind of a sad state of affairs when... one of the questions I pose to you, friends, is that if you're suffering from vision problems, if you just got a diagnosis, or you have a loved one that's dealing with possibly blindness or surgery, things like that. One of the principles that I teach in my classes is the vision problem is more than in the eye, but actually vision problems are due to a nervous system imbalance and the fact that we have very poor self-regulation skills to be able to deal with things like stress, trauma, inflammation, and that it really starts on a core level around our nervous system and the ability of the eye-body connection to understand that it's stress and the fight, flight, freeze response coupled with inflammatory things that get triggered either due to diet or how we're using our eyes, certain advice we may be getting from doctors, that these things are at the core of why our eyes let us down. But it's not really an eyeball situation. It's really how the body and all the systemic and metabolic connections influence the tissue of our eye-brain-body connection. So there's a couple of things that I call perceptual disruptors, and this would be long-term screen time, poor dietary absorption, liver health. These are things that are essential for healthy eyes. In fact, when our liver isn't detoxing properly, or when we're not able to absorb the healthy fat-soluble nutrients like vitamin A or lutein and zeaxanthin, those are the plant carotenoids that feed the macula, then we are at risk to have a depletion that goes on in the eye-brain axis. And in our course, we're talking a lot about the utilization of certain aromatherapy essential oils. And, my first principle I talk about is that we want to be safe. We don't want to injure ourselves. And there's the opportunity, if you are going to use essential oils, to choose a company that tests their oils, that harvests or sources them from organic farming principles, or at least biodynamic farming principles. And that with those ideas in mind, you can lower the chance of having products that are adulterated. Then the next thing is that understanding, to at least starting out, putting aromatherapy essential oils in a carrier oil. And doing that, you are reducing the risk of getting burned, skin rashes, or worse. We talk about certain carrier oils like fractionated coconut oil is a really nice carrier oil, or jojoba oil, and even sweet almond oil. Those are great carrier oils, especially if you can source them organically. And using a ratio of 1 teaspoon of the carrier oil per 1 drop of essential oils. So that would mean that if you're going to do 10 teaspoons of the carrier oil in a bottle, you're going to do 10 drops of a certain essential oil. And then the next thing is to do a test pass. I like to do it on the inside part of my skin by the wrist, this area right here. This is a good place to test it out and make sure that you don't have any skin reactions. You can always apply them on the soles of the feet. You can also diffuse them in a diffuser. The olfactory system is very connected to our brain, so smelling the oil first and seeing how that lands somatically in your body is something we teach a lot. Like, what do you feel in your body when you smell the oil? What do you feel in your body when you apply the oil? What do you feel in your body, after a minute of absorbing the aromatherapy oil? I think these are all really important points that we emphasize, with the students, that we need to really digest it. We need to take it in. We need to really feel into it. One of the terms I talk about now that I've been doing for years is phenomenology. Phenomenology has to do with experiencing the process. In my work, Functional Vision Integrative Body, that I teach my practitioners, or if I do vision intensives with folks, the key thing is, what are you experiencing from the work? So we can certainly think about it, we can analyze it, we can talk about research, but there's nothing to replace the idea of experiencing. What am I feeling as I'm looking? What am I feeling as I'm receiving? And we've got to understand that the eyes are more than an optical system. They're a reflection of our neurological health and our brain processing, our nervous system health, our GPS system, and how we move through the world. When we start feeling dizzy or nauseous or disoriented, it's partly the marriage between our visual system, our eyes, and our inner ear, our vestibular system. And those two are North Star feedback mechanisms that help us with balance, orientation, depth perception. And because we're on screens so much and we have such visual restrictions, always looking 14 inches to 20 inches away, we're losing the stimulation between our visual system and our vestibular system. I talk about something called horizon gaze viewing. That's what we're doing here at Joshua Tree. I can look out in any direction and I can see for miles. And that horizon view that we have all around neutralizes all the screen time that we do. I think one of my previous sessions I talked about Generation Alpha kids and how they are losing the opportunity of doing horizon vision time. But horizon vision time is one of the things that can actually reset our eyes and our nervous system, especially if we can get into the wide perceptual view. Because as soon as we start getting under stress and our trauma kicks in and our nervous system is overworking, what we start doing is we start tunneling and narrowing our perception. And once we start tunneling and narrowing our perception, our vestibular system shuts off, our proprioception stops working, and this creates that fight, flight, freeze response that we call the sympathetic overdrive. And when we're in that sympathetic overdrive, we're more susceptible to inflammation, we're more susceptible to depletion. And it's all of these things that are causing our eyes to let us down. And we think we can take the vitamin or the eye drop or the, whatever it is, but it's really a long-term systemic degradation that happens. So I'd like to talk about a few of the essential oils we're using around the eyes that are just wonderful. The first one is called Helichrysum italicum. And Helichrysum, especially in a very concentrated, high-quality form, is fabulous for calming your nervous system. It's really great for skin health. And again, if you put it in a carrier oil, you can put it around the temples of the eye, kind of above the forehead area, down here in the cheek area, and it will open up your vision, especially if you're disciplined and you do a daily application. Another essential oil that I really like that's very calming and very soothing is sandalwood. Sandalwood is one of my go-tos, especially if I'm really trying to access a level of relaxation and letting go. And my third one, which I've talked a lot about on social media, is frankincense. And frankincense is a support for many aspects of vision and relaxation. So some places that you can massage these would be behind the neck area. We're kind of in the occipital area, which is the vision center. If we go right below that, the cervical spine, when it gets really compressed, it affects the eye muscles. These are some things that can impact your nearsightedness, astigmatism, farsightedness, especially if you're in a compressed state with your cervicals. So Helichrysum italica, sandalwood, and frankincense are three essential oils. Again, putting them in carrier oils, and then you can layer them. Again, around the jaw area is really good. So jaw, vagus nerve is another place along the sides of the neck. We teach something called the auricular massage, which is along the vagus nerve below the ears on either side. Great lymphatic stimulator as well. So I'm going to leave you with one more thought about the future of certain aspects of vision care, and that is this: that vision care is more than an optical correction. It's more than chasing symptoms. But to truly embody your eyes in a healthy way, it's about developing more perceptual regulation. And it really requires an experiencing your eyes as it relates to your movement, your posture, your stress, and being in your body. And I'm doing a lot more teaching, writing, and not really doing the basic clinical practice anymore. I've been doing that about 40 years. I do offer a limited amount of one-on-one, I call vision intensives, which are 2 and 3 hours in length. So it's a very deep dive into making a long-term change. Not chasing symptoms, not at the fix-it model. The other way is through my March 18th cohort, which is a very small online interaction with me about really expanding your perception through experiencing. The only other event I'm going to be doing this year is September 10th to 13th in Central California. And that's going to be an in-person retreat. My only one this year. So if you're interested in any of those, I'll put the links in the notes. And in the meantime, I I want to thank you for being part of our community. We send you good vibes from Joshua Tree today, and hope you're having a good spring, and wish you health and happiness. That's our show for today. Take care, everybody.